I'm Frank. This is an excerpt from The Dark Pursuit, which is a story that I'm submitting for a collection that Nita, who's actually reading a story later tonight, Spooky by Association. So this is about two-thirds of the way in. It works as on its own, and but it doesn't give you everything. So let's go for it. The Dark Pursuit, July 19th, evening, Los Angeles. Coughing heavily, having a difficult time to breathe, and even slightly limping, Damien made his way towards the coffee shop where he would begrudgingly ask for help from one of his fairly successful former students. He was fortunate enough the young man agreed to meet him on short notice, but he knew there would be some convincing in order to make of him the assistant he required. It was evening, he wanted it to be dark, but still counting on the protection of foreign territory, he felt confident enough to go. Even if he wasn't attacked directly, he knew he was running out of time. What it did that fateful night was tearing him apart. He needed to put his plan into action, or it would all be equally meaningless. Finally arriving at the meeting place, he went inside and sat down at the corner booth where his old pupil awaited him. Gary, great. Listen, he began, barely catching his breath. Wait, that's it? Not a word for years? You called me up one day, asked me to meet, and not even a hello, how have you been? Right into business with you, huh? He spoke with a scornful tone, tilting his head after he put down his coffee. Fine, Damien. I guess I shouldn't have expected anything different from you. Out with it then. Good, there's no time to waste, Damien scoffed. Gary was still as much of a prick as when he met him, sufficiently smart and useful, but still just as annoying. You remember the references to the being of dark? The what? And what rush? What the fuck are you talking about, old man? He raised his head and voice slightly. You will give me some respect, young man, Damien berated. You're not my teacher, nor advisor, nor anything for years, thank God. He hissed through clenched teeth. So you can accept talking to me, and I will talk back however the fuck I want. Or I'm walking right now. You never had my respect, just my obedience. And since you just want something from me this time, I think it's you who need to acquiesce. He grinned widely, sipping his coffee. Fine, Damien tensed up, frustrated at such a contestation of his well-deserved authority. And since you are too sick to remember, no insults. Since you're too busy with other things to remember, better, he asked, his voice dripping with venom, received by a satisfied response from Gary, who was clearly having fun humiliating his old mentor. The being of dark was an astoundingly rare mythological reference, but that always appeared exactly the same, no matter the different places, times, or societies. I mean, worded, referred to, almost with the very same phrasing, all things considered. In recent years, it became a pet project of mine to investigate what it was. And they were true. Wait, you don't mean? His face changed, a question mark forming in it as he put down his cup again, to Damien's joy. I do. I know. Marvelous, isn't it? Me, believing old myths and stories. He paused to laugh, feigning happiness before turning his face into a dark grimace. All it took was a careful eye and enough experimentation to reach through and make contact with it. I find this almost hard to believe. You, seriously and sincerely taking any belief from anywhere else than England is absurd, especially since you haven't changed one damn bit. He scowled. You would never understand, Damien scolded, annoyed at the disbelief and the tremendous waste of time this was being. It called to me, and I knew I could answer it. I had the tools and the means. All it took was some time and persistence. Fine, supposing I believe you. What then? Why are you here? Why did you call me? Or rather, what do you want from me? It went well at first, but he paused, biting his lip. I must have made a mistake somewhere. It turned against me. So I came here where there had never been any stories of it, and hopefully it has no power. You made a mistake. He repeated it slowly, with his eyes closed, and stopping at every word. How delicious to hear you admit it. I'm sure you made 1,000, though, as you always have. He chuckled briefly. But why me, then? I'm clearly not your first choice. I couldn't reach Hamlin. You were my second option, he blurted laconically. Professor Hamlin is dead, Damien. Rest in peace. He may have been just as much of an ass as you are, but at least he had integrity and some intellectual honesty, something you could never swallow. Gary stared at him straight in the eyes, unwavering as he spoke with a firm tone. Also, do you expect me to believe you didn't call Clarice? I feel like I should have done like her and just let you wallow in the mess you made. Guess curiosity got the better of me. She wasted the opportunity of the millennia. He, he coughed hard at this, grabbing a napkin to spit into, which didn't hide the black liquid staining the white paper. I think you should explain, along with telling me what's wrong with you. For the first time, Gary seemed to suspend the irony, looking sincerely concerned. That is not blood, is it? No, it's not. Damien spoke with a hoarse voice. Clarice wasted a discovery of a form of life more powerful and ancient than anything we've ever seen. A true deity, found! This will make us rich, remembered, immortal! He paused, having to regain his breath after his exalted speech. That is, if we can manage to subdue it. All we need is a sacrifice, someone to take my place as its mark, it seems. While the legends are vague about what becoming such a target entails, from what I'm experiencing, it doesn't feel any good. Wait, are you... Gary had a half smile in his face as he began, which, when confronted with Damien's wholly serious look, turned into a full-blown laughter, even drawing the attention of the other patrons of the coffee shop, who turned to stare before looking away. So let me see if I got this right. You have been branded by an eldritch being you know very little of, and now you're telling me you want me to help you commit murder in order to trick it and control it. Oh, and if I don't, you'll die in some horrible fashion. In short, yes, I don't know what is so funny about this. He was boiling with rage. Gary's still the same impertinent bastard he's always been. Answer the question. I'm sorry you don't, he mocked, getting up. Where do I start? Oh, I know. Why should anyone help you? Ever? Power, money, glory? He got up just as quickly, intending to follow the young man until he had an answer. Damien, I almost pity you, he sighed. Most people actually care about real things, like being a decent human being or having human connections, or I don't know, this might strike you as absolutely crazy, but treating people with a modicum of respect and dignity. He screamed at the man's face, drawing further attention from others in the establishment. Sorry, we were taking this outside anyway. He smiled as he addressed the counter and walked out, followed by Damien. When Gary spoke again, he sounded tired more than anything else. Besides, I would not kill, much less for you. Not even for immortal glory, having outsmarted a millennia-old creature? It might not even work. And no, of course not. As you told me, and let's be honest, every one of your students at one point or another, this is not my problem. Figure it out yourself, Damien, if you can, that is. And he grinned, tilting his head forward. Or better yet, don't. I'm sure it's well deserved, whatever you did do to provoke it. Don't you feel you have a moral duty to trick an evil deity such as this one? Damien tried, taken over by a creeping dread that it was it, that this wasn't going to work. For all I know, since it's after you, it might not be evil in the slightest. But regardless, I simply don't care. Goodbye, Damien. You're alone, as you've always been. And there's no one you can trick this time. He turned his back and started walking away at a fast pace. Still he spoke as he hastened. Oh, and don't bother asking anyone else for help. No one will help you. They're just returning the favor. Wait, wait! He tried to call him back, but doubled over, coughing black slime escaping from his mouth and dripping from his hand over it, coalescing into a form in the shadow of the evening sun. Before Damien could react, he was once more in that dark night inside Judy's apartment, its form present, using her body as a mold, once again executing a banshee-like scream. But this time, unlike in the past, it spoke. She never forgave you, nor herself. But how could she turn you away? You would ruin her. The voice, without corresponding movement of mandibles, was like the chattering of thousands of beetles' carapaces. It also reminded him of a slithering snake, or of pouring blood. It made Damien shiver. What is this? What are you doing? His breath, as weak as in the present, managed to muster. Damien was terrified. You still think us one being, one creature. You see yourself as an unlucky target, when you are so much more than that. The room shook at those words, making him drop to his knees. We are sorrow made form. We are vengeance in flesh. We are the will of the void. Reality started shaking as, finally, the past repeated itself. It lunged at Damien with fingers like claws, piercing his flesh and pinning him to the ground, and its formless, bulbous head opening to vomit a dark, light-absorbing liquid straight into his throat. But this time, he did not relive his breaking free of that otherworldly grasp. He gasped awake, the feeling of the fluid in his throat now more than ever, as he was back in the present, outside the coffee shop in Los Angeles. Yet, the place felt unlike the one he stood a moment ago. The time of day was the same, and he still felt awful, but there was no sound. All the people were gone, and the city was oppressively silent. He could barely hear himself in that quiet, heavy stillness. Then he noticed, right in front of him, as if rising from his own shadow against the sun, it stood, facing him, squaring him off, the orange circles for eyes glowing in that pitch-black silhouette. Evening. We have been watching and following you for years now. Yes, we see what you're thinking. How you were so horrified of us that night. We saw your distress on the plane too, the nightmares and visions we gave you. Our mark, as you called it. Though we think it more of a part of ourselves inside you, but much more distilled than the one you naturally have. Now you can hear our thoughts as well, for you are on the cusp of us, teetering on the edge of our precipice. It is time. And that's it.